why the gay community no longer feels inclusive. All right, pronounce your journal, grab your favorite beverage, and let's do the work. Getting straight into it. When I came out in my early 20s, I'm not sure if I was just blind to the racism, segregation, lack of inclusivity, and the obsession with looks, or if I was just lucky enough to be surrounded by people who shielded me from it. Either way, I came out into a community that felt like it welcomed me with open arms. Now, all that to say, it wasn't perfect, but there was enough space for my gayness to exist. So I wanted to dig into what happened. I feel like a lot of us are feeling this, and I wanted to bring light to it. And also so that you all can be like, you're not alone. I see you too. I am here with you. So here are 2 photos of me in my early gay days. Fresh 21 in New York City. And then I think I was maybe like 22, 23, 24. In Columbus, Ohio, a part of 2 amazing friend groups. I miss all of them. We all help each other along our journey. I'm not connected to them anymore. I wish them all the best though. And I'm actually gonna make a video about that as well. Why I'm looking at it, why gay friend groups crumble, because I think that's another thing that happens often in the community that we don't talk about enough, excuse me. But moving straight into it, section 1, what we value has changed. I think one of the biggest reasons the community has changed, why it feels different, and why it no longer feels inclusive is because what gay men value has changed. And unfortunately, the community tends to follow where the majority goes. Now, I say unfortunately, the community tends to follow where the majority goes because there isn't a lot of individuality. Like I know, and I'm not trying to be rude or mean, I know a lot of us don't know how to be individuals. You can see that today as you walk outside and everybody looks very similar. There's a lot of followers in the community, and I think it's hard for people to stand out, and it's hard for people to feel like an individual and be on your own. And again, that's where I want to bring light to this, because that was a part of the beauty of the gay community. When I first came out, it was like there was enough space for me to be an individual, for me to express myself, and it was appreciated, celebrated, seen. Like we used to hype up the individuals. If you were looking like everybody else, AKA cookie cutter, you blend in. And the people that stood out, that had on a different outfit, that showed up differently, that whatever that they did, those are the people that we were like, oh my God, look at you, you have the courage to do this. We are gonna hype you up. To me, no longer the case. All right, so to begin this off, I want you to ask yourself these questions. What do I personally value in other gay men? Connection, looks, humor, status, kindness? What qualities do I believe make someone desirable in our community? And where did I learn that? When I go to queer spaces in person or online, who do I see getting the most attention? Do I treat people differently based on their appearance, body, race, or status? And then lastly, have I ever felt excluded by the community? What made me feel that way? So at least for me, I typically don't feel excluded from the community because I typically attract people that love me and celebrate me and hype me up. I mean, I don't really want to be around people that are naysayers. Like I say all the time, I do that enough for myself in my own head. I don't need people doubting me. If I have a question, if I have an issue, if I need feedback, if I want your perspective, if I want your advice, I will ask you. But 9 times out of 10, I'm not asking people any of that shit, because where I see myself going, where I envision myself going, those are the people I would ask. People that are where I want to be. And personally, I don't really see too many people in my vicinity where I want to be. So I don't really ask people for advice. Do I ask them for feedback? Yes. But all that to say, I never really had a overwhelming feeling of being excluded, mainly because I've always been like a lone wolf, and I hop in and out of friend groups. I've been like this ever since high school. Like I never was a part of like a group. I kind of was just like friends with 1 or 2 people that were in all these other different groups. And the beauty of that was I kind of knew a little bit of everybody, and I kind of had a taste for what the pulse of everything was and like how things were feeling. So recently though, I have started to feel excluded, which actually led to the end of one of my connections with one of my partners. Was in his spaces was this predominant, I don't know how to explain it, but it was predominantly white. Even though there were black people in it, there was a boy that was as dark as me, and then there was some fair-skinned people too. But the way that they showed up was very, I hate to say this, but it's the truth. Very, very whitewashed, very proper, you had to talk a certain way, you had to be polite, you couldn't confront things, you couldn't be aggressive, you had to have a certain tone, body language was important. So it was like a lot of this stuff, and I hate that ended our relationship, but we had such a great connection. But when he started bringing me around his friends and family, I was forced to start changing who I was. And I think that it's interesting because a lot of black people judge me for being whitewashed, but it's because I'm in spaces that I used to become a chameleon to adapt, to survive. Because I loved him, I sacrificed parts of myself, the way that I talk, the way that I tone, my tone, things like that, to be with him, be around him, because he wanted me to be with him and he wanted me to be around him and his family and his friends. But they put this unspoken pressure of he's too this, he's too that. Like every time we would see his family, his parents would come to him and tell them that I did something too much, like he's too aggressive, or why is he wearing those clothes, or why does he do this? And it was like never enough. And I unfortunately was at a point where I was like, dude, I can't do this anymore. I'm starting to feel like there's something wrong with me. I'm starting to feel excluded. I'm starting to feel all these feelings like that community, your world, does not want me. They are excluding me, so much so. His father got to a place where he told me I was not allowed to come to any of his houses. Mind you, I just said any of his houses. This nigga got like 3, 4, 5 houses. So you know, now you get some context as to what I was dealing with. Not only just white people, it was rich white people. And the rules y'all have to follow, I don't want to be a part of that. I'm just gonna be honest. I love him to death and I will always love him. I still have his name on this side tattooed on my body. But the games that community wanted to play was just too much. And I didn't want to be included. So that is the first time, honestly, in a very long time that I have felt excluded. And I honestly was okay with that. But I want you now, with the space provided, to think for yourself, when were you excluded and how did you feel? And then moving forward, again, we're digging into the gay community specifically, but I kind of want to also share personal stuff with you so you don't feel like you're doing this work alone. Moving forward, I think a big part of the shift is that the community doesn't have to fight as hard as it once did. Before my time, before I came out, and I'm not very privy to this experience, so older gay men, I need you to tap in down below, comment section, join the conversation. You all know I start the conversation on my website, realgaylife.com, right after each video. I believe the fight looked very different. They were fighting for marriage, for equal rights, for the freedom to hold hands in public without fear. Now, it feels like we're fighting within our own community. There's something powerful about having a common enemy. It gives us a community a shared focus, a reason to stand together. But without that external fight, it seems like we've turned inward and that unity became fractured. So I kind of want to do a comparison between older generations and what we are going through now. And specifically, again, I want you all to chime in down below, the older generation, because I'm just kind of going off of what I have heard from conversations that I've had briefly with you all, which is again why I love just talking about this stuff, because I think that brings more clarity. And let me know if this stuff resonates with you all or not, and if you contradict or think differently, talk to me. So yeah, older generations versus the current culture. So older generations, community over clout, survival over status, chosen family over follower count. That is a big one for me as a recent. Authenticity over aesthetics, connection over competition. And then current culture, and then there's more of these. For those of you that downloaded the actual journal, there's more that I dig deeper into this, but just for the sake of the video, because my videos can get really long because I like to talk, I shortened them just a bit. So if you're curious to know more about this, you can download the journal on my website. Aesthetics over authenticity, desirability over depth, attention over intention, followers over friendship, and then exclusivity over inclusivity. Again, I want to know what you all think. Tell me if you feel these, if they resonate with you moving forward. So for those of you feeling unseen, left out, and to my empaths, this is big for us empaths, the ones who walk into a gay space bar, a club, and and feel the energy shift, you are not alone. There is a shift happening. And I'm here to validate that experience by saying I see it too. So I wanted to kind of dig into how we got here. Again, for those of you that downloaded the journal on my website, you have the full list, but I'm just gonna go over the 2 that stood out to me the most in this list. And that is internalized homophobia, racism, and body shame that never got addressed. And then the second one is queer spaces becoming more commercialized, less community-based. So specifically, I wanna hit on homophobia and racism. And let's get into section 2, which is talking about the onset of Black Pride. Okay, here we go. Every time I talk about race on this channel, I feel like, especially about Black people, Black gay men, I feel like I'm kind of like asking for it, but we're just having a conversation. We're just talking. I try to remind myself of that. Sometimes I take it too extreme where I'm like, I have to say it the perfect way, in the right tone, with the right compassion. No, even if you say everything perfectly, somebody's gonna find fault in what you say. So it's more so important to just get what you're feeling and what you're thinking out there, and then just having the conversation with people that wanna have the conversation with you in a respectable way. I get a lot of backlash when I talk about race, but moving forward. So I wanted to take a second and have the courage to talk about the one thing I see the most. The thing I think many of us aren't ready or are afraid to talk about, and that's internalized homophobia and racism. It's uncomfortable, but it's real. And for me, it became crystal clear with the rise of Black prides. So specifically, I'm in Chicago this year. Columbus doesn't have a Black pride, not that I know of, but they definitely had a lot of Black pride events. And I actually went to, I want to say almost all of them, but I was with my partner, and they took me to the predominantly white spaces like Union, AWOL. I feel like we went somewhere else, but I can't remember. And then towards the end of the night, I took them one night with me to the Black Pride event, and then I went the other night, just to kind of get a feel for just everything in the community. Like I said, I'm a lone wolf, so I'm okay with being by myself. So I'll hop from place to place to place, just because I want to feel different vibrations and different, the vibe. So I've noticed on set of these, and that is kind of what kind of prompted this conversation where I'm just like, oh shit, there is something going on and it's getting worse. So I want you to ask yourself, what was missing from traditional pride spaces that made Black prides necessary? If pride was truly inclusive, would there be a need for Black pride at all? Do you think white people or non-Black folks feel welcome at Black prides? Why or why not? Why do you think Black people started creating their own pride events? So I wanted to pause right here and chime in as to why I think this is. So the fact that I the fact that I date outside my race and I date white folks and I am in predominantly white spaces often, I'm probably not the best person to answer this question, but what I can say is that I've noticed that in these predominantly white spaces, there is a lack of inclusivity as far as, for me, music. The music that is being played does not cater to me as a Black person. I feel like it caters to what white people want to hear. And I feel like if there was more of a conversation between, I don't know, whoever owns these bars, like Hydrate, I'm trying to think of the other ones off the top of my head. I just moved here, so I'm trying to remember. Hydrate, what is the one? Roscoe's. There's another one that I go to sometimes. I can't remember. What is it called? I can't remember. I cannot remember. But if there was like a conversation with the owners of these bars, with people of color, I think they could integrate the music more and make people of color feel more welcome there. Because to me, I don't really need to see a sea of Black people to feel comfortable. To be honest, I don't want to see of a predominantly anything. A sea of white people, a sea of Black people. Like, I like to see integration, integration, inclusivity, which is the title of this video. I like to see a mix of a little bit of everybody. And I feel like music is one of the things on this earth, in this world, that brings people together. Like, I think about like Michael Jackson, for example. His music would cross every single race. He even had a song. What's that song called? Black and White. Like, it doesn't matter your race. People just like music. People like to dance. We're all here just trying to make it through and survive. There's so much shit going on. You play a certain song, you play some music, and you start shaking your ass. Who gives a fuck if you are Black or white? We're just here to relax, have a good time before we have to go back to this stupid ass capitalistic system that they built that we are stuck in, aka modern day slavery. All that being said, I think Black people started creating their own events because there wasn't enough representation for us in these spaces. And we were also being not treated as if we were equal. So for me, I can look over this. Like, I'm not trying to say that you're weak if you can, but I can look over this for the most part. I don't give a fuck. If you don't treat me how I'm supposed to be treated, I'm just gonna give the same energy to you or just act like you don't exist. I'm not gonna beg for your approval, beg for you to treat me a certain type of way. No, I'm just gonna be like, okay, well then fuck you too. And I think that's also a part of the reason why my ex-boyfriend's friends and family did not care for me, because I wear a crown on my head, baby. I know who the fuck I am. Just because I'm Black doesn't mean I'm going to kiss your ass. Doesn't mean I'm going to cater to you. Doesn't mean I'm going to change my tone. Doesn't mean I'm going to change my body language. I speak clearly. I speak directly. You know why? Because people do not take you seriously when you're too nice. But when you speak firmly and directly and say, no, this is not okay with me, they listen. And that's what comes across to me. Again, I want to have a conversation, and please speak with kindness and compassion. When you speak to certain white people with direct conversation, or when you speak to them directly with a firm tone, for me, their response can be nervous. They get nervous, they're intimidated, it's aggressive to them. And what I have learned is that is not normalized in white culture. But in Black culture, I would be labeled a bitch if I didn't say it with my chest. I was raised to speak up, use your words. You were not allowed to walk around like meek. You were supposed to walk brave and with your shoulder. Like, I was taught to stand up for myself. So now bringing that energy into white spaces, they want to police me and tell me to act like them. And that's a tenet to me of white privilege, where it's like, no, we act like this, so you need to act like this. Now, what if I said the same thing, where I was like, no. You need to act more aggressive. You see where things get dicey and weird, and this is where I feel like the inclusion gets tricky, is because we have a hard time merging those things together. So to me, it makes sense why Black people started creating their own events, because they wanted a space and a place where they could just be, where they weren't intimidating, where they weren't being fetishized, where they had their music, where they could just show up and be. White spaces did not do that for them. And even I'm not privy to, and again, I don't want to be rude if it's Latino, Puerto Rican, whatever you want to call them, but what is the name of the bar? Words are escaping me right now. Fantasy nightclub, I feel like, has a predominantly Latino demographic, and I am like, they did the same thing. They created this space because places like Roscoe's, I don't care, y'all can look them up on Google, Chicago's gay bars, because they didn't create spaces that were inclusive. Again, this is all that this conversation is talking about. I'm not telling y'all to not go to these places or saying that these are bad places to go to or not to support them. I'm just saying, what happened to our community? What happened to the inclusion? We have to talk about this and stop acting like this isn't a thing. But then again, maybe y'all are okay with not being inclusive. Maybe y'all are okay with being segregated. And that's another conversation I'm like kind of having with myself in my head, where I'm like, maybe the United States is just too segregated for me. Moving forward, before we start pointing fingers or blaming someone else, let's take a moment to check in with ourselves. Remember, this channel is about being the change you wish to see. It's not about being perfect, it's about being open every day, every video, every conversation, to seeing things differently so that we can show up in this world and in our communities with intention. So I want you to ask yourself honestly, am I an inclusive gay man? So you know me, I created a short assessment titled, Am I an Inclusive Gay Man? This is going to explore whether you're building community or quietly reinforcing exclusion. This assessment is specifically for gay men who want to reflect on how inclusive they really are. If you've ever found yourself gravitating towards sameness, judging others for not fitting in, or assuming your version of queerness is the default, this is for you. So there are 3 sections to this assessment. The first one is internalized bias. That was inspired by The Velvet Rage. Radical love and accountability, all about love. Y'all know I love that book. And then inclusion in action, which is inspired by Sister Outsider. So again, this is not to judge. This is just to give you kind of like a guiding post. I want you guys to get out of your comfort zone. You guys keep talking about wanting to not be alone, wanting deeper connections. How are you contributing to making yourself lonely and making yourself not getting connections? Are you wearing a certain lens that you need to stop wearing? Because to me, when I go outside, I am always able to make a connection. Now, is it a long-lasting connection for the rest of my life? No. But is it a connection for the night? Something that makes me feel connected to another human being that isn't through a screen? Yes. And to me, that's what is the start. If you're able to start doing that, you will be able to grow that muscle so you can get to a place where you find that person where you're like, oh, I saw you last time I was here, or the other time I was here, and you keep going to those places. That can become a deeper connection. I don't know. Do you contradict? Let me know. All right, now I want to briefly talk about internalized homophobia. The unconscious or conscious negative beliefs, shame, or discomfort a person holds about their own sexuality, usually shaped by growing up in a society that devalues or stigmatizes being gay. So I want you to take a second and look at all these traits and select the ones that are acceptable or celebrated by gay men, or in gay men. So do we celebrate softness, physical fitness, emotional vulnerability, ambition, control and discipline, sensitivity, gentleness, crying or openly showing hurt, sexual boldness, muscular bodies, femininity, and career success? I believe a lot of gay men grew up learning to hate themselves, whether it was intentional or not. But to take it a step further, I think an overwhelming number of Black gay men have internalized this so deeply that seeing a confident, happy, feminine gay Black man feels rare. And when we do see him, some of us don't know how to celebrate him because we've spent so long believing that joy, softness, and visibility were not meant for men that show up like him. So ask yourself, when do I feel the most celebrated or validated by others? Is it when I'm acting more masculine, composed, or detached? When I've shown up as soft, emotional, or expressive, did people affirm me or did the room go silent? Have I ever dimmed parts of myself, my voice, my walk, my fashion, my joy to fit in? Do I believe I'd be more attractive or accepted if I acted less gay? And then lastly, is the version of me that gets the most praise really me or a performance I've learned to survive with? For me showing up as a feminine gay Black man is not celebrated as much as me showing up as this masculine, macho, rah person. So I know how to play the game. I know how to act. I know how to put the mask on and play this fucking matrix. I just made a video, y'all need to check that out, talking about the gay matrix that we're all playing, that some of us, aka if you made it this long in this video, you are ready to break out of because you're sick and tired of being sick and tired, are breaking out of. We know the game. We know how to show up. We know the clothes to wear. We know the brands to buy. We know how to talk. We know how to sound. We know the job we need to get. We know all the shit that this society would say, oh my God, yes, you did it, you made it. But to be honest, even after you do all that, you still gotta do more. It's never ending, which is why I say stop surviving. Stop surviving and start being. And in order to stop surviving and to start being, you gotta fall in love with yourself. Again, not to keep bringing up my ex, that was something that I was like, dude, your people do not fuck with me, and it's starting to rub off on me. I'm starting to think there is something the matter or something wrong with me. No, I love my sassiness. I love how aggressive I can get because quiet as it's kept, he loved that aggression, but only when it was in the bedroom. I love who I am, and I'm not changing that for nobody. Because you know what happens when you start doing that? You start becoming a chameleon, you start becoming a people pleaser, you start shape-shifting and you start doing all the things that are not authentic to you. And that's what I realized was who he was. And I'm like, I can't do that, I can't be that, because I fucking love myself. I don't wanna play this game with these people anymore. I don't wanna survive anymore. I have one life. I don't know what I'm gonna do after this life. I don't know if I'm gonna come back as a butterfly. I don't know if I'm gonna come back as another person. I don't know if I'm gonna remember this shit, but I do know right now, I remember a lot of shit. Right now, I have these 5 senses. Right now, I have clothes that I love to play in. Right now, I am going to enjoy this moment, this life. Live with intention. Live like I'm happy. Live like I'm the fucking shit. And it's not in a cocky fuck you way. And the only time I say fuck you is if you are a hater. See now, all the people that call me all these things, why are you calling me all these things? Because to me, if you were so obsessed in loving yourself, you wouldn't even have time to focus and hate on me because you would be too busy loving you. And to be honest, that just means you're not my person. And that is the uncomfortable thing, which I don't know if y'all are ready to talk about relationships, because I feel like a lot of you guys are just still trying to find people that you want to be in a relationship with. That's another thing. When you're in a relationship, it's almost like you start forcing connections between people. And for me, moving forward, a lesson that I've learned, as you all know, I practice solo polyamory, so I believe in having multiple partners. I'm not really big on trying to meet my family or my partner's family and friends now, because I am such a authentic person. I'm very polarizing. Either you like me and you love me and you fuck with me and you celebrate me, or you don't. There really is no middle. And I can tell you from day one, when I met all of his people, I could tell who did and didn't like me. And it wasn't a lot of them that did. To conclude, I think the racial divide in our community has absolutely played a role in making it less inclusive. But I also think the hate we've received from the outside world has started to seep in, and that hate has become internalized. It's created less and less space for gayness to show up, especially when that gayness doesn't fit into what's traditionally seen as masculine or desirable. Now, I'm not saying every gay man is or should be feminine, but I do think the constant praise and celebration of gay men who can do both, who are seen as masculine but still just gay enough, has created a quiet culture of shame. A culture that makes us suppress parts of ourselves that don't fit that mode. A culture where femininity is tolerated, not celebrated. Being gay looks different for all of us, and part of being inclusive is allowing men to explore that freely without judgment and celebrating that exploration no matter how it shows up. But the truth is, we just don't do that with each other anymore. And that's why the divide keeps growing, and that's why there's less space for us all to feel safe, affirmed, and celebrated in this community. That was a big one, that was a heavy one, and I shared a lot. So now I turn the mic to you. Starting the conversation right after this video, visit realgaylife.com and talk to me. Let's start the conversation. I love you all. Remember to be the change you wish to see today. The next time you are outside, make sure you're making that person that doesn't feel seen feel seen. You be an inclusive gay. Y'all hear me? Take care.